We have reached the last 11-man classification. We will get to 6-man, but we've got to wait for our 6-man contributor, Lehman Saunders, to write those up. I believe he's going to start those this week. So let's go to 2A Division 2. 2A Division 2 has been dominated by Bremond the past 3 years, and more specifically, it's been dominated by Rashad Paul, the Mr. Texas Football Player of the Year in 2016. He is now off to Texas A&M. And so that is really, for me, where this entire conversation has to start. This entire conversation has to start with Bremond and what do they look like without one of the best players in Texas high school football history.
Right.
They are the 3-time defending champs. They've still got a great coach in Jeff Kozowski, and they've still got some talent like Caden Perales, their running back, who was very quietly a 1,700-yard rusher last year. But they are losing some defensive stalwarts as well. All eyes are going to be on Michael Pruitt. Michael Pruitt is likely to take over at quarterback. And look, these are some of the biggest shoes to fill in state history.
Right. And
it is not fair to turn to Michael Pruitt or whoever takes over at Bremond's quarterback and say, hey, go do what he did.
Right.
You know, it's going to be tough. And what's especially interesting is that I think Bremond plays in the region that is at least the best at the top.
Yeah.
Because you look at Tenaha.
Yeah.
Tenaha is a program that has, that has just not been able to get past Bremond, basically. Yeah. But this is a loaded Tenaha team. 19 starters back from last year's team, including C.J. Horn, Coach Craig Horn's son, who's a 3,600-yard guy last year, 51 touchdowns. Just tons of weapons. Trey Gardner, Jay Lloyd, Ontario Thompson, Warmes Brock on the defensive side. This team is loaded. And so when you can kind of feel, in my view, the balance just shifting a little bit. Just with that one player. And, I mean, let's not forget they're also losing Joe Williams. They're also losing a number of other key players on that Bremond three-peat. But you can feel that Region 3 shifting. And at this point, look, you have to say that Bremond is the man until somebody beats them.
Absolutely.
It's the Ric Flair principle.
They have earned that right.
They have. But there is a very realistic scenario that you can say, yeah, Tenaha should win Region 3.
Right.
That's a very, in a vacuum, you would say that, in my view. So that's what's very interesting. There's a couple other teams. Maud comes to mind that could up and nip one of the favorites. But for me, this comes down to Bremond. What does Bremond look like, and are they good enough to get past Tenaha?
Right.
That's basically it. What about Region 4? Let's swing down to Region 4. And Burton.
Last year's surprise team.
Last year's surprise team, and they are back again, entering his third year as a starter. Caleb Harmel could be in for his biggest year yet. DeMondrick Winters is back, Cade Weiss, and Caleb Fuchs. This is a really good, loaded Burton team. But there's a couple of other teams that are in that region that you have to watch out for. You always have to watch out for Falls City. This is a team with pedigree, with that's been 2 state championship games. They bring back Keyshawn Johnson, their quarterback, not the former Dallas Cowboy, but maybe he is. Maybe it is. Maybe that's the big headline here. Andrew Malcolm, their running back, is back. They bring back a fair amount of their defense as well. The other thing that's interesting to me about Falls City is that they lost 5 games last year, okay? 5 games, they go 8-5, kind of that weird 8-5.
Right.
Those 5 games, 4 of them they lost by single digits.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're not far off. It's not like they're getting buried, They're close, and they represent probably the biggest threat to Burton. Bruni is going to be in the mix as well. Bruni, of course, probably the best team in the Rio Grande Valley the past couple of years. They've got a chance as well, especially if they can replace their quarterback Joseph Cruz. And they bring back a 1,300-yard rusher in John Vela this year. Okay, let's swing over to the other side of the bracket. Do you have something to say?
No, I'm excited about this because this is where it gets good.
Okay, you want to talk about Region 1?
I'm more excited about Region 2 for obvious
reasons. Let's do
reasons.
Region 2.
But that's okay.
We'll do Region 2.
This is the best region. Right? Top to
is
bottom?
This is the best, deepest, most complete, most dangerous region.
Your number of state title contenders is this
there
deepest crop right here?
There are at least 4, and if you want to squint, maybe 5 or 6 teams in Region 2 rather, that you could see winning a state championship. Obviously, Ira Ann's to the top of that list. after making it to a title game last year. They bring back they bring back a fair amount of pieces, including Kyle O'Bannon, their star running back, a big offensive line. They will need to replace some defense, and they'll need to replace a quarterback. But overall,
I just think, and the other part of that too is the way that Mark Kierhoff builds an entire culture, right? You know that offensive line and defensive line is going to be good every year now. You can sort of just pencil in this is going to be an exceptional group in the trenches, and what they have in skill positions is going to be the difference.
What about Albany? Albany is amazing. Albany is a team that, like, we kind of had them left for dead last year, going into last year, because they lost so many key pieces. Yeah. You know, now they look like they're reloaded. Yeah. And they bring back Brian Hamilton, who is a 3,300-yard guy. They bring back Adam Faith. They bring back Dax Reese. They have a ton of weapons offensively, not to mention a really, really good, strong, experienced, tough defense.
Yep.
And that's what's going to take to get past teams like Munster. Yep. Okay? Munster's back. We saw Munster in person last year, and we were stunned at how much bigger they looked than everybody else. This is a team where this is a city that does not miss many meals.
No.
And they are going to be, they're going to be back in the mix as well. They bring back a 1,500-yard rusher, and they bring back 3 first-team all-district offensive linemen. That's a good place to start for a team like Munster that does like to ground and pound a little bit. And then there's Monday. Yeah. Monday, absolutely loaded again. They bring back Alex Thorne, who is a defensive whiz, but is kind of the new do-it-all athlete there. Patrick Corcoran's going to be a little bit inexperienced defensively to begin with, but this is a team that always has speed, and it's always dangerous come playoff time. So Region 2 is loaded. Region 1, to me, it still goes through Wellington. Yep. I think Wellington has got to be the favorite, especially when you bring back a quarterback like Luke Williams. I think the Skyrockets have to be the favorite there. There are a couple teams that could be spoilers. I like Roscoe. I think the Plowboys have a little something going. Offensively, they bring back Francisco Garcia, a 1,700-yard rusher. He's a real workhorse. More than 300 carries last year. They're going to feed him and feed him and feed him. And in 2A Division 2, if you've got that guy, he can take you a long way. Yeah. Memphis is going to be in the mix as well, especially defensively. This is going to be a very experienced, solid defensive team led by their defensive lineman Broderick Logan. For me, though, it still goes through Wellington. Until somebody knocks them off, they have got to be considered the favorite in 2A Division 2. That's my thought. That's all I'm thinking. So that's overall right now.
It's an exciting group.
It's a really exciting classification. It seems now that Bremond is a question mark, it seems a lot more wide open. Like last year, not that it wasn't fun, right? But it just felt like we were marching towards Bremond versus Iran. Right. Like all year. Look at the magazine. Yeah. Look at the magazine. We said it looks like it's going to be Bremond versus Iran, and it was. Yeah. Now that there's not that juggernaut out there, it seems like 2A Division 2 is a lot more wide open.
It's going to be a lot of fun.